So this is Darla Letourneau again from Bike Buckley, and Steve Clark from the League of American Bicyclists has just returned by bike from the Bonita Springs meeting, and I wanted to capture on video kind of what were the takeaways, what you saw, and also on your ride to and from today, because we're in Sanibel, which is where he's been staying. So
it was a very pleasant ride to get there. There were some really nice treatments, amenities along the way that I took some photos of, and including going over some bridges, where each bridge that I went over had some space for bicycling. I mean, the causeway it's wider here than pretty much any place. But then I got to a bridge that actually had a separate right lane, and the right lane is marked as buses and bikes only.
Yes, that's Matanza Bridge into Fort Myers.
Yes, okay. And that was really neat to see, because it really helped to legitimize bicycling when people see those signs and, okay, buses and bikes, and of course then you have plenty of room and people leave you alone. For the most part, when I got to Bonita Beach Road, and I told this to the Bonita Springs people too, because it's really the main road that goes into Bonita Springs from Estero. Estero is it's for the most part, it's a pretty good ride on Estero. But at Bonita Beach Road, it's one of those situations where they've got two wide lanes, and really if they narrowed that inside lane, there could be room, and narrowed the outside lane, really, there would be room for a 5-foot bike lane. It wouldn't be a difficult thing to do. It was interesting because I met with people, and
who all was there?
So Jennifer Hagen set this up, and she's kind of like, she's wearing a number of different hats. So she's a sustainability coordinator. She works for community development and is helping with creating some more model ordinances, I believe.
She's the one who did the Complete Streets.
And Complete Streets is something they just adopted, which is huge. So and then the city manager was there. He didn't go on the bike ride with us, but he did come to the pre-ride meeting as well as the debriefing, and was, another very honest, straightforward person who might not quite be where we might like him to be, but he actually admitted that when he rides a bicycle, he will either use a sidewalk, or quite often he'll go the wrong way on the road.
No.
Because he knows, technically it's not really supposed, it's not allowed, but he wants to see the cars, And so, and the reality is, when I was there, it's like, that's the culture. Going against traffic and using the sidewalk, and oftentimes using the sidewalk and going what would be the wrong way if you were on the road. And I believe they have a pretty high crash rate, because, and I tried to explain this as respectfully and nicely as I could, but there are reasons why a disproportionate number of crashes occur when people ride the wrong way or are on the sidewalk. Those sidewalks, and a number of people said, I would ride on Bonita Beach Road, I would just use a sidewalk. But the sidewalk is 5 feet wide. I mean, 5-foot wide sidewalks I tend to stay away from. But I mean, the motorists were respectful when I was by myself riding, fairly fast on these roads. They're pretty high-speed roads. And that's the other thing that I noticed, that when you have these wider lanes, I think I probably said this about Cape Coral too, it just encourages people to go faster. Mm-hmm. The reporter was there from News Press, and also a photographer. There's also the traffic engineer who just graduated from engineering school in 2010. That was interesting. She disclosed that they had never talked about bicycling in her classes.
Did she say where she was?
She did, but I didn't really catch it, so I didn't write it down. But she was very interested. She said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I want to learn." we really want to make this city a more bikeable place, and with the complete streets, we're just starting to get into this now. There was also a consultant from a engineering firm that was there who also said, you know, she really doesn't bike, but she was very excited about helping with developing ordinances and making things better for the folks that want to bicycle and walk more.
And did you have the elected officials?
And there were 2 council members. One that actually came on the ride with us, Council Member Mike, who actually owns a bike shop. And he provided bikes for people. And then the liaison council member with the Bike Ped Safety Committee, Janet Martin, was there for the debriefing. She apologized that she couldn't be there for the ride. She had something else happening, but she was there for the entire discussion afterwards. So a really good group. There were also some citizen advocates.
Bicycle Club?
No, nobody from the Bonita Bicycle Club. Just people from the Bicycle Pedestrian Safety Committee. Two people from that. So it was a good group of people, and we rode around for about 8 miles. Saw a lot. We actually experienced some hostility and had a good discussion about what occurred. We were on a 2-lane roadway. Actually, it was a 4-lane roadway at that point, and soon to become 2 lanes. And the lanes were both very narrow already, and so I was sort of leading the group, and with narrow lanes I tend to be about 4 feet out, which really made me, you know, almost in the center of the lane. It's probably a 10-foot lane or maybe 11 foot. And then people were single file behind me, but a motorist who probably believed that we belonged on the sidewalk, just, you know, honked pretty loudly and then revved up their engine as they passed us. So it was quite clear that he was upset. And then people felt like, well, normally I would ride on the sidewalk, and this is just what people aren't used to seeing bicyclists on the roadway. So it was kind of fun, because then I was able to share with people just some of the tools in the toolbox on how to make those kinds of streets just more comfortable for people bicycling, and also educate motorists about that cyclists are legitimate road users and they have the right to be on these roads.
Did you have any recommendations for them besides the Bonita Beach road?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of places where I think the roads are overbuilt and it's encouraging higher speeds, not just Bonita Beach, but Old 41. I mean, with New 41 and with Interstate 75, Old 41 truly could be, you know, road dieted and just transformed into a really walkable, bikeable place.
Even the way it is without...
Well, you'd have to do some, I mean...
Because we have a proposal to have a shared use path along old US 41.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it needs to be just reimagined, re-envisioned as I mean, one thing about Bonita Springs is there's not really like a downtown, right?
There is a little one.
I mean, a little
like
one.
The River Park. I think you were in it.
Right, I mean, yeah. And so, but that's on Old 41, right?
Yes, it is.
And that whole, I mean, that area is probably the best area to try to create sort of a more walkable...
Yes, and that's part of the redevelopment.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And I think the best way of doing that is do what they did down in Tempe with Mill Avenue, which was sort of like Old 41, just lots of cars going through there fast, and they just had one, you know, they decided to do 1 lane in each direction, and people, like, it was 5 lanes. People said, this is crazy. It is now the #1 commercial district in the Phoenix area. And now people can't imagine how it used to be, right? It's where people want to be. And really, I mean, there's a lot of people who really don't need, I mean, if your purpose is to go through town fast, and it looks like Old 41 is the most convenient, as quick as anything else, you're going to get those kinds of motorists. I mean, what I shared with people is you basically get what you design for. So if you're designing for lots of cars and high speeds, that's what you'll get. If you start designing for the person who wants to spend money, walk and bicycle and take their time, you'll get that.
Right.
And that's what they found on Mill Avenue in Tempe, Arizona, where they just totally transformed the street.
Well, and I misspoke. The downtown part that they're redeveloping isn't supposed to be a path. I don't know if they took you to the other old 41 that connects to Collier County. It's like
no,
okay,
I didn't get that far up.
Because there's like it's a very narrow 2-lane road with grass on the side, and we desperately need something. We're working on that. But, so you were really in the area where they're going to do the redevelopment.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And again, just really trying to narrow those lanes up and putting in some real bike lanes and wide sidewalks. I mean, that makes a big difference. And then really having the kinds of shops and retail stores that people want to go to, coffee shops and you know people-friendly bars and restaurants. And then getting the housing. So they do have some housing that might be coming in there. So mixed-use development, I mean, they get it. They know what they need to do. It's going to take some time before they're really there. Their bike commuting rate is a bit higher than Cape Coral. It's at 0.7%. So, still less than Minneapolis during this time of the year, which is over 1% during this time of the year, and then during more pleasant months it's up to 5%, which is always interesting. But we also saw the middle school. They have just tons of people. Tons of the students are bicycling to the middle school. We also saw evidence at the 7-Eleven. There's a lot of workers that are biking, and probably these workers aren't being included in the American Community Survey because they might be a little bit reluctant to actually fill out surveys. A lot of Latinos and others that are employed in the service industry that work in Bonita Springs, and I believe a lot of them live in Bonita Springs, and they're relying on bicycles to get to work every day. And so we talked about how do we reach those communities with good safety education. Because again, a lot of the folks that are using bikes are not being educated about the best, safest way to ride. So there's a lot of wrong way riding, and it's probably not as efficient for them as it could be, or as safe. So we talked about bringing classes to where the people are, and maybe get some instructors who are bilingual, and the league can help with that because we also have a very good education program, and I know in Minneapolis we certify some Spanish-speaking instructors. We can do that everywhere.
So tomorrow you're heading?
Tomorrow, actually, yes. This is actually a 3-day weekend, right, with the holiday and Martin Luther King. Almost every city around here is taking it as a holiday. So I get to and then actually the League of American Bicyclists also has MLK Day as a holiday. So I actually am going to just sort of recuperate.
Well, I was going to say, much deserved. We've kept him extremely busy this week, and we really appreciate it. You could tell from the conversation at the NPO board today that there was a lot of new thinking, and it's given us an opportunity to kind of get their attention in a new way, and so I'm really hopeful that we can build on what you brought and continue the conversation. It's kind of been an exhausting week for all of us. But
yes.
But
I think you had less sleep than me this week, maybe.
But
But it's been really fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we're looking forward to having you back in Fort Myers on February 4th.
February 4th.
We get a little tiny window,
Fort
but
Myers.
we're going to try hard to make that as productive as all the rest we've had here. So I just want to thank you, and as a Sanibelian, I want to thank you for staying on Sanibel.
Well, it's been very enjoyable. It's a great little island, and I love the T signs that help motorists to look for the folks on the path, and also path users to, that's a driveway crossing, and watch for cars, because it's very important.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, I did see one thing I saw in Fort Myers. I took some photos of that you guys could use in Sanibel.
Good.
It says yield to bikes and peds in the crosswalk. So
yes.
I took some photos of that.
Great.
Those are nice signs to see around. So there are some good examples.
All right. Thank you.